Hello there students and welcome back to this video series. This is your instructor Dhruvi Bhatt and today we would be talking about organization and its types. In the previous lecture we understood what is meant by organization, what are different characteristics of organizing and why is organizing important. In organizing you will define the hierarchy or different roles and responsibilities of each and every individual in any organization. Today we will start firstly with definition of organization. Of course, according to Louis Allen, organization is the process of identifying and grouping the work to be performed, defining and delegating responsibility and authority, and establishing relationship for the purpose of enabling people to work more effectively together in accomplishing objectives. Students, if people need to achieve a singular objective by working together to make sure that they reach that objective without scratching each other's heads or without killing each other, you need to delegate authority and responsibility. This is possible using organization. What are different principles guiding an organization? Students, you will find these principles a little bit similar to principles of administrative management given by Henry Fayol. Yes, you got me right. Some of these principles are similar to those given by Henry Fayol in his administrative management. Some of them are modified according to time and requirements. Okay, the first principle of organization is principle of unity of objectives. Unity of objective or unity of direction. Each and every person must be following a same objective or a same goal. That is the first principle of organization. The second principle talks about specialization. The person who is specialized in doing some work must only be given that work. You must properly divide work into different parts, and the person specialized in doing a particular work must be allocated that work. This will make sure that the work is done more effectively. The third principle of organization is the principle of coordination. If teams or group of people work together helping each other, then work can be done successfully, work can be achieved successfully, and it will be accomplished sooner than anticipated. The fourth principle is principle of authority. Principle of authority says that authority must be only given to the deserving people. As we have already discussed, authority and responsibility go hand in hand. So, if a particular person is given authority of some other people or of some task, then firstly he must be deserving. Secondly, he must take up the responsibility of that authoritative position. The misuse of authority must not be done. The next principle of organization is principle of responsibility. Both these principles talk about the same thing, that authority must be given to people who can take up responsibility. The next principle of organization is principle of delegation. Here the work must be delegated or given to the person responsible for doing that work. Next principle is principle of efficiency. The goal of management or the goal of organization is to achieve efficiency. Efficiency is making sure that maximum output is received from minimum input. So organization must follow the principle of efficiency and produce the maximum output. The next principle is principle of unity of command. Only one boss above a single employee. We have already talked about this. Next principle is principle of span of control. This principle says that span of control must be designed very carefully. What is meant by span of control? The number of managers who are controlled by a single manager. Number of people below me is my span of control. If I manage 5 employees, then my span of control is 5. If I manage 15 employees, then my span of control is 15. Depending upon how many employees can a person manage, depending upon what type of work your organization does, depending upon whether there is centralization or decentralization of authority, Depending upon different factors, span of control must be defined and properly stipulated. The next principle of organization is principle of balance. There must be a balance in the organization amongst various resources, various employees and various objectives. Next principle of organization is principle of communication. Communication must be easy, and along with that the communication must be fruitful and free flowing in the organization. Next principle is principle of personal ability. According to the ability of a person, a task must be delegated to him and a person must be rewarded for his or her personal achievements. The next principle of organization is principle of flexibility. Organization must be flexible and must be able to change plans, change actions over a period of time if the goals of the organization are not met successfully. The last principle of organization is principle of simplicity. The simpler the organization, the simpler the organizational structure, the easier it is for employees to be very much accustomed to the organizational culture. So make sure that you create a simpler organization for people to work in. Let us move further and understand different types of organization. The different types of organization are under different heads. The first type of organization will be on the basis of objective of formation. The second on basis of distribution of authority. Third on basis of distribution of power. On basis of objectives of formation of organization, there are two types of organization: formal organization and informal organization. Secondly, on basis of distribution of authority or on basis of how authority and responsibility flow in an organization, we have three types of organizations: line organization, staff organization and a mixture which is line and staff organization. Thirdly, on basis of distribution of power, on basis of distribution of decision making power, on basis of the identification of who will take crucial decisions, we have two types of organizations: centralized organizations and decentralized organizations. Let us understand each of these organizations in detail along with their advantages and disadvantages. Starting firstly with, of course, formal organization. Chester Bernard defines formal organization as a system of continuously coordinated activities or forces of two or more persons. It refers to the structure of well-defined jobs, each bearing a definite measure of authority, responsibility and accountability. In simpler words, students, formal organization is an organization which formulates to satisfy the organizational goals which are laid forward by some other person. Also, it has coordinated activities, it has a systematic set of activities. This is an organization where everything is much formalized, it is very well defined, it is very particular in nature. So basically, students, in a formal organization, there are a set of people who are able to communicate with each other, who are willing to act in order to satisfy the goals of the organization, and each of these people share a common purpose. They have a definite common purpose, and that purpose is given by someone else who is a manager. This is a crafted organization by the managers, and these people are allocated some work by someone else. That is a formal organization. Here objectives are of the organization rather than individual objectives. Let us see different advantages and disadvantages of a formal organization. Starting firstly with advantages of the organization. Firstly, it concentrates on the jobs to be performed, so there is no wastage of time. It basically concentrates on whatever job is to be performed at that point of time, and that is why there is a very definite goal which is to be followed. So, in this way, formal organization is advantageous. Secondly, it is bound by rules and regulations and procedures. That is why, again, there is high amount of discipline in formal type of organization. Thirdly, it helps in accomplishing the common objectives of the enterprise. successfully. This is what aim of an organization is. So a formal organization will make sure that objectives of the enterprise is satisfied successfully. Let us check the disadvantages now. It does not take into consideration the sentiments of organizational members. It doesn't take into consideration the individual goals because there is too much stress for satisfying the organizational goals. The second disadvantage says that it does not consider the goal of the individual. That is what I am talking about. It does not consider the individuals or members of the organization. It considers the organization as its top priority, and that is why it might neglect the individual goals. The last disadvantage says that it is bound by rigid rules and regulations and procedures, and that is why sometimes the employees may feel burdened or may feel locked up by these policies, rules and regulations. That is why this might lead to dissatisfaction of the employees. The next form of organization is an informal organization. It refers to the relationship between the people in the organization based on personal goals, personal attitudes, emotional attachment with each other, the mutual likes, dislikes, etc. This talks about the informal group of people who work together to satisfy their individual goals. This is an organization which might be internal to a formal organization or might be a totally different organization also, but mostly it is internal to a formal organization. Here the informal organization is not established by any formal authority, but it is established, it is formulated by the will and wish of the individuals who share same beliefs. This is just like a group of friends whose goal might be just to watch a movie. That is an informal organization. They have a shared goal, they have a shared liking, they go out and watch a movie. That is an informal organization. They satisfy their goal, then the goal of the organization is satisfied. Let us talk about the advantages and disadvantages of such type of organization. Firstly, it has a powerful influence on the job productivity and job satisfaction. Such informal groups inside the formal organization will increase job satisfaction because it will make the workplace worthwhile. It will make the workplace worth visiting, because along with the organizational goals you feel that your individual goals are also being satisfied by hanging out with your informal group. Secondly, it is advantageous because the group members can attain specific personal objectives. Within the organization, they can formulate a group, they can help each other, they can team up together and work towards satisfying the personal objective of gaining might be a promotion in the near future or of increasing productivity in near future to increase their income, etc. They can satisfy their personal goals by being a part of an informal group. Thirdly, it is advantageous because it gives psychological satisfaction to the members, of course. It makes sure that people in the workplace do not get depressed or overworked due to all the pressures. The pressure release is possible in informal groups. Lastly, these groups ensure faster communication. Just give out some information to few of the group leaders of such informal groups, and in no time the entire organization gets to know about whatever you want to communicate. These are the means by which communication can be achieved in a faster way. But such type of informal groups in an organization have some disadvantages too. It is not based on rules and regulations, and that is why it lacks discipline. Students, a formal group is group of people who is brought together formally by some manager. Say for example, a manager puts together a developer, a designer, maybe a tester. These three are unknown to each other, but they need to work together for a project, for maybe a software project. Then this is a formal group. But two designers, two testers, and maybe 5 developers, all these get to be friends in the company and they all work together, and maybe they do their individual projects as well as they complete the company's projects, then this group of people is an informal group. Informal groups are advantageous on one hand, but these groups lack discipline, and that is why there is a possibility that they might do something which is not very beneficial to the organization. Secondly, there is more emphasis on individual goals and individual interests, and in that the organizational interests might be sidetracked, which is not what you need right now. Thirdly, due to such types of groups, the rumors might spread very swiftly. If communication is faster, if good news travel fast here, then bad news will travel with double the speed. So rumors will also spread swiftly, and that is why informal organization is not always a good news. Moving forward to the next type of organizations which are based on the distribution of authority in the organization. The first type of organization is known as line or military organization. According to McFarland, line structure consists of the direct vertical relationship which connects the position and tasks of each level with those above and below it. This is a simple line structure where authority flows from top to below. The person at the topmost of the organization having highest authority, and at the bottommost having the lowest authority. Responsibility flows from bottom to top, where each and every person will be responsible to the person directly above in the hierarchy of the organization. Here is presented the example of line organization, where firstly we have a president having highest authority, vice president having authority less than him, plant manager, then we have foreman A, foreman B, foreman C. Foremans are nothing but supervisors. Below the supervisors we would be having workers. President having the highest authority, VP authority less than him, plant manager less than him, supervisor less than him, workers less than him. Workers are responsible towards supervisors. They will daily report to the foreman. Foreman will daily report to the plant manager. Plant manager will report to vice president. Vice president will report to president. This is a military-like structure where you are not given a position based on your specializations, but you are given a position based on your experience. If you have a great experience as a foreman, then you might be promoted to be a plant manager. If you have high amount of experience as a plant manager, then you will be promoted as a VP and so on. Here, each person has to do everything. The president is responsible for taking care of all the decisions related to marketing, related to HR, related to finance, each and everything. There is no distribution according to the speciality of the worker. Here, each person must be a jack of all trade, must be very much creative, and must be a very talented person who will be able to satisfy all the requirements of the organization. Let us see advantages and disadvantages of such type of organization. Firstly, it is the simplest type of organization when you need to assign authority. Just give out authority from top to below. Once the experience increases, promote the person to the next level. It is as simple as that. Secondly, it is defining a clear-cut division of authority and responsibility. As I told you, authority flows from top to bottom, responsibility flows from bottom to top. There is a clear-cut division. Everyone knows what they are responsible for and who is their next top authority. Thirdly, it has strong discipline because there is very close control. Decisions at each level are very limited. Vice president will not be able to decide something without having the permission of the president. At each and every level, the decisions which can be taken are very limited, and that is why there is strong discipline, because there is strong sense of control in this type of organization. Of course, it is a military-like organization. What else do you expect? As I told you, there is a unified control, a single department or a single authoritative position taking care of all the areas. This will give higher control in the hand of this single person, because that person is responsible for everything. How the product will be, how the product will be advertised, how the product will reach customers, who will the employees be, who will be the vice president, will be decided by the president. All the different areas are explored and controlled by a single position, and that is why there is a unified control and very strong discipline. The next advantage tells that as decision making in each and every level is limited, the decisions will be prompt. I do not need to ask anyone else before I take any decision. That is why there will be a prompt decision making in the organization. Also, such type of organizations have higher flexibility. These organizations can add and remove positions very easily. So such organizations are quite flexible in nature. Let us talk about some disadvantages here. There is a heavy burden of work. As I told you, each person or each authority is responsible for many different works which are unrelated to each other. So, each authoritative position is heavily burdened with work. They have no free time and they are very much heavily burdened with lot of amount of work. Secondly, there is concentration of authority. Authority is concentrated in few hands and there might be a misuse of this authority. Lack of specialization. A person is given too much work and a person cannot be specialized in all of these works. Lack of specialization would lead to work being done ineffectively. So lack of specialization is another disadvantage. Next disadvantage is lack of communication. Communication is not very easy and is not very much entertained in such types of organizations because each authoritative position are busy with their own works. So there is very limited communication between different people in such type of organizations, which also might lead to misunderstandings and problems. The last disadvantage is there is scope of favoritism. As I told you, authority is concentrated in few hands and people will, or we can say people might misuse their authority and power, and they may favor some people and not favor some people, promote some people and not promote some people. There is a possibility of favoritism because each and every position is having some definite power. Moving forward to the next type of organization, which is also based on distribution of authority, which is staff or functional organization. The problem there that there was no specialization of work is solved here. Functional organization implies that the organization should be based on various different functions which are carried out in an organization. Taylor's functional approach is mainly based on principle of specialization and tries to bring about organizational balance. It makes sure that whoever is specialized in doing the work is assigned that work. Here we make sure that the work is divided into different parts. Each person who is specialized in that part is given that particular work. For example, again we have president here. Below the president we have research and development manager, finance manager and marketing manager, which are three different heads. Below each of these managers we have different people. Below research and development we have different people belonging to maybe design, development, testing. Below financial manager we might be having people who are responsible for maybe accounting, maybe managing the finance, maybe who is responsible for investing, maybe the person who is responsible for budgeting, maybe the person who is responsible for purchasing. Different people who are responsible for different financial jobs. Below the marketing manager we have further functional distribution as the person who might be responsible for sales and also the person who might be responsible for maintaining the customer relationship. Here, the person who is specialized in doing the task is only given that task. Let us see advantages and disadvantages of such type of organization. Here, there is specialization of work. Obviously, also the efficiency increases because the person who is perfect for the work is given that work. Thirdly, each and every person is given limited duties and less work will make sure there is less headache to each and every person and the work is completed effectively and efficiently. Moreover, there is scope of expansion because there is more free time and because each and every person is delegated with limited work. There is scope of expansion of such type of organization. These organizations too are flexible in nature. You can add and remove departments as and when required. The disadvantages are, firstly, there might be conflict in authority. As there is no clearly defined authority, you saw just before some time that R&D manager, marketing manager, finance manager, maybe HR manager, all these people are at the same authoritative position. They being at the same authoritative position might interfere in each other's work and each other's department. The marketing department might not be very happy with the finance department. The production department might not be very happy with the marketing department. Each department will be conflicting with each other because though they are independent groups or independent departments, at the end they are interdependent. Secondly, it is difficult to pinpoint responsibility. If there are losses, then the finance department will put up the responsibility on production department that they wasted many resources, that is why there are losses. The production department will put up the blame on marketing department. They did not advertise the product properly, that is why we are facing losses. You will not be able to pinpoint the responsibility of loss to a particular department because each department is responsible for different functions of the same product. If the entire product fails, then who is responsible? We do not know. Thirdly, this type of organization is comparatively very expensive. We have different departments. In each department they will require more resources. There are more number of people. That is why the organization is more expensive. Here the discipline is slackened. Discipline is not as tight as our military organization because authorities and responsibilities are quite scattered away. So it is very difficult to maintain discipline because every positions are given authority of different types of decisions. Decision making will be slow and discipline will be less. There is lack of coordination amongst the activities carried out by these different departments because different people are doing different things at their own different paces. So coordination is difficult to achieve, obviously. Let us move forward and talk about line and staff organization. Some advantages of line and some advantages of staff can be collaborated in this type of organization. Here the line authority flows from top to bottom and the staff authority is executed by the specialists over the line manager who advise them on important matters. What was the problem with line organization? The problem was the authority was proper, discipline was proper, everything was proper, but a single person was expected to excel in all different functions. Here, do a simpler task, create a line authority where authority flows from top to below, responsibility flows from below to top, and each and every person in the line authority is given the help of some of the experts as and when required. For example, at the top, we have our managing director. He cannot be specialized in all different things. That is why he is having the highest authority. Give him some experts, give him a financial expert, give him a marketing expert, give him an investment banker, give him a maybe assistant, give him an research and development expert, give him all those experts, give him all those advisors, may he be a legal advisor, a financial advisor, give him all the advisors. The ultimate decision will be in the hand of the line manager. These all staff people or the specialized people would just advise the line manager and make sure that his decisions are fruitful. They will help him in taking the correct decisions. This will lower his burden. Along with that, he can get a special perspective from people who are specialized in those work. This is the example here of line and staff organization. Let us see the advantages and disadvantages of such type of organization, starting with advantages first. Advantage of functional organization while maintaining the unity of command. Here you can get the advantage of specialization while you can maintain the unity of command, a single person having all the authority. No different departments would be having different authorities, which will lead again to a closely monitored structure and a more disciplined structure. Secondly, it relieves the line manager. As I told you, they are relieved of the burden of doing so much work because they have help of advisors. Thirdly, there will be sound managerial decisions as there are many people to help in those decisions. Lastly, it has greater flexibility compared to only line or only staff organization. Let us talk about the disadvantages. It might lead to conflicts between the line and the staff executives because there is a possibility that they might not understand each other, and the line managers might not be willing to take up the advice of the staff managers. The line managers have the weapon of experience, the staff managers have the weapon of education. The age-old conflict of education with experience will continue in this type of organization. The second disadvantage says that staff experts may be ineffective because they do not have any authority. The staff experts actually lack the authority to make the decisions. They are only mere advisors. That is why they will lack the authority to make up the decisions, and they might feel that they are ineffective in the organization and might also actually be ineffective. Thirdly, this type of organization will be quite expensive because these advisors are obviously quite expensive. Lastly, the staff managers are not at all accountable for profit or loss, and that is why they might not perform well because their advices will not really make them responsible for the ultimate decision. They are not the decision makers, line managers are the decision makers. Because their advices or their work might not be held accountable against them, there is a possibility that they may not perform well. That was all about line and staff organization. Let us move further and talk about types of organization based on distribution of power. Who is given how much power? Based on that, we have centralized and decentralized organizations. Talking firstly about centralized organization, a systematic and controlled reservation of authority at central point within the organization creates a centralized organization. In such type of organizations, power is centralized in few hands, which is the top management. Each and every person is not given enough power of decision making in the organization. It is given only to the few top managers. Let us check advantages and disadvantages of centralized organization. Firstly, in centralized organization, the cost is very less because all the decisions will be taken by few people and there is very less chances of wastage of resources or money. Secondly, there is uniformity in action. Because only few people are taking decisions time and again, their decisions will be uniform. Thirdly, it will lead to a proper leadership and generate motivation amongst people. This is also a flexible type of organization. Moreover, it can help in improving quality of work if the centralized people take good decisions. It ensures better coordination amongst the people because decisions are taken by the higher authority, so there are less conflicts at the lower level. It has some disadvantages too. Centralization might lead to delay in work because for decision making, different documents need to be submitted to and fro. You need to submit certain documents to the higher authority so that they can take related decisions. Again, these documents will be passed on again to the lower authority. In all these, there will be a huge delay in work because people need to travel through many levels of the hierarchical structure to reach the authority who can actually make the decision. So, as there is in some of the government works, there will be a delay in work due to centralization of authority. Secondly, remote control is only possible because the higher authority is overburdened with work. They cannot be present with each and every organization, and they cannot closely control all the employees. So remote control is only possible with centralization. Thirdly, there is no loyalty because here the decisions are laid by the higher authority and employees just have to follow. They will never be happy. They will lack the ability of initiative. They will lack the fulfillment of their personal goals, and that is why they will not be loyal to the organization. They will switch the organizations if they find better opportunities. Moreover, there is no secrecy in the organization because information is traveling to and fro between different employees, so any information could not be kept secret. For decision making, each and every level of the person must be knowing that information, and that is why there is no secrecy within the organization. There is no time for special attention towards any special department or special attention for needs or innovations or initiatives by a single person, and this will lead to lack of creativity in the organization. For the betterment of the organization, the other type of organizations are decentralized organization. If you want to make a creative organization, then you need to give out the decision making power to many of your employees. Decentralization authority means a systematic effort to bring the dispersal of decision making power to the lower levels of the organization, to make sure that the lower levels of organization are imparted decision making power. Decentralization of authority works. Only broad powers will be reserved at the top level. Remaining powers are given out to the lower level of the employees. Here they will feel in command and they will be more creative. Let us talk about advantages and disadvantages here. There is diversification of activities. All the people will be able to do things they are specialized in because they have the decision making power in that particular activity. There is development of personnel. He can think about different things, take his own decisions and develop in the process. Thirdly, motivation is improved because decisions are his own and not levied upon by some top authority. Decision making is quicker because all the employees make all the related decisions. It is not taken by a single authority, so decision making would be quicker. Lastly, there is an opportunity of learning by doing. It is possible to learn by doing because here you are given the opportunity of doing things. But this too has some disadvantages. There is a problem of coordination because everyone is taking their own decisions. They are not thinking about the decision of any other department or any other part of organization. They are making an independent decision, and that independent decision might cause problem of coordination or functioning of other departments. Secondly, inconsistencies are there due to absence of uniformity. These decisions are not uniform because different people are taking them each time. So there is a possibility of inconsistencies in the organization. Thirdly, it is costly as it raises administrative expenses. It is costly because there is duplication of work in each and every department, and here as each and every person is making their own decisions, they would need the best possible instruments, best possible resources, best possible employees. While making these decisions, they might be causing a huge expense to the organization, by the way. The last disadvantage tells that it is very difficult to implement in practice because actually this structure lacks discipline. It is very difficult to implement in practice because if people are given too much power, they will misuse it. To make sure that the organization functions out smoothly, the centralization will work more effectively. It is difficult to implement in very large organizations. Okay, students, ending on that note, thank you so much for such patiently listening to me. This is Dhruvi Bhatt signing off. Until next time. Bye-bye.